Now here we'll be using the centermost rivets on the oculars and attaching the nose strap there. You look at it and you do it by eye, by how much room you'll need, and if in doubt, hold it up to your face, cut your scrap, clean the end up, and punch it. This is the only piece that doesn't really matter what the width is. All the other widths are geared to the hardware that's being used. For the strap for the buckle, we'll want to mark 2 holes in it that are far enough apart and big enough around to allow the arm on the buckle to swing fully. This is mostly a guess at this point, and we can add a little bit more room to it if we need to. Once your holes are marked, punch them. And we want to do this about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in from the end, right where our bend is. Now we've got the holes, we'll go ahead and cut out the material between them. Careful that you make it straight, otherwise you wind up with a keyhole shape, and that really won't work well. Now once you get the material cut out, go ahead, reinstall the buckle, and see how it fits. And if you have full range of movement, then it's a good cut. You might want to practice this on a scrap piece of leather. Now, if you're planning on putting a keeper for a strap on there, give yourself plenty of extra room on the end of that tail. Otherwise, you can make it short. And when we rivet it, put a rivet between the keeper and the buckle. So you need to allow room for that. Otherwise, you'll trap the keeper underneath the rivet edge, and that really won't work. Or you'll try and pinch the buckle with it. Same story there. Won't really work well. So play around with it a little bit, get a feel for it, and once you've got it, go ahead and mark it. And then punch it. But don't rivet it yet. Not yet. So now it's been marked, go ahead and punch your hole, and use your existing hole as a source to mark your second hole. Reach through it and press upon it. Go ahead and line yourself up with the hole, and then go ahead and punch it. This way you wind up with your holes being centered, and you won't have to worry about that being out of alignment. Now that they're punched, put your buckle on it. Try it out, see how it fits, make sure that the arm swings freely. Don't put it on the wrong way though. Now that you've got it in, go ahead, put your temporary rivet in it, and hopefully everything is the way you like. If not, you can always cut it off and move it down a little bit more. Try out your keeper for your strap. Pin it in place. Get a feel for where your rivet's supposed to go. Mark that rivet hole. And carefully punch it. And you want it close enough to the keeper to where it traps it, but not so close that it interferes with the rivet. If you need to, try this out some on some practice straps. Now, mark your holes for this strap. Do not do this just by eye. Keep to your center line, make a dot for hole number 1, and then I'm using my stitching punch as a guide and just rocking from corner to corner, marking them off. If you try and do it by eye, you'll wind up with holes that just don't work right, and you'll be unhappy. Once they're marked, go ahead and punch them. Good idea to punch a few more than you really need in order for your goggles to fit. That leeway will stand you in good stead if you happen to loan them to a friend or decide to wrap them around your hat or whatever it is that you do with them. Now be sure to use a good size hole punch when you do this. Make them with the same size hole you used when you made the buckle holes. We don't want to struggle with putting this on now, do we? Check to see your punch is centered on your marks by pressing it into the leather just a little bit. Then look at the marks and adjust this way or that way as you need to center up on the marks you made originally. Punch the hole when you're satisfied and test it out when you're done. Now all our straps are cut to the width of our hardware, with the exception of the one that goes on the nose. And if you're satisfied with the way it works, it's a winner. Well, now we've got all of our straps cut, we're going to need to spray paint all of our plastics. Everything's been scotch-brighted so the paint should stick, and we just need to remove all of our leather parts from the plastic, and then we can dye our leather, and we can do all the detail painting we need to on all of the plastics. And for that, we'll go outside. Now here we are back fresh from spray painting our plastic pieces. For that job I used a red primer for plastic. Red is not a requirement, that's just the color that I had available to me. And that gets covered up with the metallic bronze spray paint. Now it is a little bit dark, but it's got a good metallic shine to it, and so that's why I chose it. And I followed that with a spatter coating of gold paint. It gives us a good contrast in the colors. Now be sure to get an even coating on everything, but get down into the details in the interior as well. It's important to get all that because people will see it. On the leather, I used a USMC black dye for the color. When you do yours, be sure to get all the holes in the straps, all the punched holes and the slots that are cut into the leather, because it will show a strong contrast versus the black dye. And then I covered that with satin sheen. It seals leather, and when you wear it, it'll keep you from getting any of the black rubbing off onto you. And that's about it. We can assemble it now. Now we need to attach the hardware to the straps and the straps to the oculars. Push the rivet through the leather, and it's a little bit tight because the leather soaked up the dye and made it swell tighter. Once you get it in, you'll place a cap on your rivet. And once you get that in place, take your rivet set. You can see here it's got a dished face on the end. Place that on the cap. Hold it nice and firmly in place. And give it a couple of good solid whacks with your hammer. Don't overdo it, but it needs to stay together when you're done. So give it a pull test to check it out. And if you don't have to use the rivet set, you can just use a hammer and it will work fine. You just wind up with a flat rivet instead of a domed one when you're done. Now to attach the buckle, feed it into the strap and make sure it's facing the right way before it gets riveted. Once you're riveted together, you're riveted together. Just keep the same with the rivets, it's just the same thing over and over. Just make sure that you don't miss with your rivet set, because you'll put a permanent crease in your cap and that will look bad. And we'll go ahead and put the strap keeper on it. You can see how it works there. Same thing as the other one, just feed a rivet through from the back side. And once you've got it firmly in place, then you put your cap on it, and with your rivet set in place, give it a couple of good hard taps. And this is how it looks. Now we do the temple straps. Push the rivet through, and the dye makes the rivet hole swell just a bit. So you may have to struggle with it a little bit. Now put the cap on it and take your rivet set and give it a couple of good solid whacks. And once again, we really don't need the rivet set, but it gives a nice finish to that. Now the gaskets are in place on the oculars. Nothing yet is riveted. First, we'll rivet the temple strap, and one of the things we want to make sure, though, is don't do the rivet for the nose piece. In fact, go ahead and take that rivet out if you're thinking that you might possibly hit it. So, we're not using the rivet set for this. I'm just going ahead and doing a flat rivet, hammering on it. Put it in place on your hammer and give it some good solid whacks. And go ahead and pick up the other one and do it as well. Now you're layering, you're going through several layers at this point, so you need to make sure that you're doing a good solid job of riveting it. You got the temple straps, and you got the gasket material, and you got the plastic, so it adds up. Just take your time about it, and it's going to seem a little awkward to balance that on the hammer, but that's riveting. Once you get that done, then just go ahead, go around the entirety of it, once again leaving off the nose strap rivet, and be patient, take your time. You're making something that you're going to wear with pride when you're done. Now, here we've gone around the whole thing, and I went ahead and did the nose piece as well. And right now we're ready to attach the head strap to it, and that's the last leather work we'll have to do on this. So go ahead and push your rivet in. Make sure your buckle is oriented the way you want it to be, and on the side you want it to be. Because once you pound that rivet flat, it's done. Same for the other side. Go ahead and thread it through that square hardware. Take a rivet, push it through, a few good solid whacks. Almost done. And I went ahead and carved a lens out of a CD case. So I just drew around the jug top and then took my Dremel and carved it out. And that's the complete unit. And you have just witnessed how to make a steampunk pair of goggles that are suitable for your treks into the ethers or splunking into the darkest of caves as you fend off the monkey creatures. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it, and have fun.